What's up, and welcome back to Opposites Attract Podcast. This is Sonja Ramirez, your girl, and I'm sitting next to
Miguel Ramirez.
What's up, everybody? How is your day?
How was your week?
How is your life?
Going.
Woo!
Yay for us again?
Yes. Welcome me to the podcast. No.
What's happening, babe?
You're looking mighty hot there, husband.
Thanks, you look nice.
I remember that shirt. I look nice.
You look nice. You look hot.
I look hot.
You do.
I am, actually. A little bit. It's a
good.
little hot in here.
Yeah.
Dude, I remember that shirt.
Yeah.
I remember us being at a Legal Shield event and we were dating.
Yep.
And we went to go look at $1 million homes. And we went with one of our mentors, Tony, to his house.
Yeah.
And you and I, it was one of our first pictures that we took together. And you were wearing that shirt.
Yep. Yeah, we have a couple of those old pictures. There's another one like in this brown or like a tan suit.
Oh, yes. And then
the
one
old-
with your blue and white shirt.
Yeah.
When you were a DJ at my
Couple
niece's
old pictures.
birthday party.
But yeah, so the reason I put on this Hawaiian or flower shirt or whatever is because we went to a Hawaiian barbecue type thing.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And kind of crashed it.
I felt like we were. So my mom, she's hilarious. She's all over Facebook. And it's weird because she's not very tech savvy, but she finds her way around.
She could find a
when it
party.
comes to social media. For real, right? And she ended up coming across one of her cousins. It was a post that she put up, and it was a picture of an elderly lady who we didn't even know we were related to, but my mom saw the picture and it looked just like my grandmother, which is her mom.
Yeah.
And then she realized that that was my great grandmother's first granddaughter. And they're throwing her a party, and she just turned 93 years old. Right?
For the 93-year-old.
Reals.
Yeah,
And
shout out.
Yes. And so
Who was this person?
She is my grandmother, Ota, which is my great grandmother's first granddaughter.
Shout out to Sonja's great grandmother's first granddaughter.
And what's so crazy, because my grandmother's maiden name is Baca.
Yeah.
And I've never met, I met maybe one or two of the Bacas at a funeral or something like that. But I was always told that we have a huge family. But then when I asked my mom about our family, she has no information for me.
Yeah.
You know, so when she told me about this, I was pretty excited about it, to go meet some individuals, some family, second cousins, third cousins, fourth, fifth cousins or something.
It was a little weird.
It was.
Because I thought we were going to go and
Other
we were
family
going to know
members?
somebody.
Right.
But it was nobody knew.
On the Peralta side, my mom's family, the only one that was there was my mom. None of my aunts were there. None of my uncles were there. So the only person I knew there was my mom and my nephew, who my mom took with her.
And then as soon as we start grabbing food.
No, wait. I know. Wait.
Who are these people?
But this is even worse because, I heard someone call my name, but I'm like, there's probably a Sonja in here. And then come to find out, no, someone was actually calling my name, and it was somebody at the party who
you ended up figuring it out.
Met me at, it was my aunt's funeral. And she remembered me from then. But it was weird because I knew nobody, and I came with flowers for the birthday girl, right?
Yeah.
The birthday girl.
I mean, we didn't show up empty-handed.
But it was weird because when it was time to eat, it's you're eating.
Whatever.
Yeah, whatever. Anyways, it was cool. It was really cool.
Was it what you expected? Or did you think it was going to be different? Because you knew better. I thought there was going to be some people that we knew.
Yeah, I thought that I was going to know
somebody.
Right, from my mom's side, the Peralta. The Peralta side, but there wasn't. So I'm
this is extended family.
And people are looking for reals, right? Like people are looking like, who are these people? And some
we
of them,
haven't seen them at the other barbecues.
Right? And some of them were like, no, we knew you were related. As soon as we seen you, we knew you were related.
I saw the brown skin, brown eyes.
We just didn't know how you were related,
Curly hair, yeah.
Yeah. But, I mean, they welcomed us with, open arms. It was cool. And my son, of course, my little extrovert.
Oh, he just took off.
He was gone. Yeah. Yep. Made friends, was playing, having a good time. Yeah. And it was good. It was good.
That's
how
fun.
did you feel?
And now, well,
because I know how I felt. I can only imagine how you felt.
I was like, don't leave me alone.
Don't leave me alone. I'm like, hey, I'm going to go sit by my mom. And you're like, half smile. Like, what? Okay.
Oh, no, it was cool. It wasn't bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways.
So lately we've had a couple podcasts that things have kind of popped up. And what was it? The first one you went on your, you did that volunteer work. Yes. So that podcast, we kind of talked about all of that. And then remembering your childhood on the last one.
Yes.
So we've those last couple podcasts have been all focused on that. We just kind of haven't had as much of the back and forth that we usually do. Mm-hmm. But we've been talking about on the last podcast, kind of like the moves that we want to make and stuff like that. And we said that we would kind of put it out there.
And talk to our listeners about it. And before we start talking about it, we should probably talk about how our emotions, like with change and what we've been going through, what we've been feeling, and maybe the cause of those feelings or the fear, all that good stuff.
Well, real quick, before we get into all that, let's,
I said good stuff.
We can kind of talk about just where we started, and our mentality. Did you ever have any feelings towards debt growing up at all?
Yes.
What did you feel?
No debt.
As a kid, you didn't want any debt.
I'm assuming so, because as soon as I was on my own, which I moved out when I was 18, I refused to have debt. And that's why when I wanted to go to college, I wanted to go to college, but I'm like, how am I going to go to college? Because I knew that a lot of my friends were getting loans, and I didn't want to start my life in debt. So I decided to go, Pell Grant, and because we were broke, I qualified for it.
Yeah.
But I didn't even know about scholarships and all that other stuff. But so, yeah, I don't know how I knew about debt. I think to me, debt equaled being broke. Therefore, I didn't want to go that route. What about yourself?
Yeah, I always kind of had that too. Growing up, with my dad and my grandmother. And credit cards. I remember credit cards like, we got to pay something on the credit card, or we got to do, and, was borrowing money and, that sort of thing. And then having to owe people money back. And I was just always like, You
didn't understand?
Not that I didn't understand. It always kind of gave me a weird feeling, like a bad feeling, a bad vibe, like having to owe somebody money. You know what I mean? I was like, I don't want that. I don't want that feeling. I don't want that to be part of the relationships or any of that, because even as a little kid, I would see it between my dad and my grandmother when things would happen, and it would,
interfere
I don't know,
with their relationship.
Yeah, with the relationship.
I've seen that.
And I always found it weird, even as a kid. It just seemed like something that, I don't know. I knew I didn't want to do it.
Right. How old were you when you started making money? How old were you when you started, whether it was a job or selling report cards?
Well, you know what?
Redacted or... Yeah.
No, I think the statute of limitations on my bootleg report cards that I used to make is up.
Some of his friends went to college because of not.
Yeah. But I think the first time I started making money was, actually making money, was probably about 12. I think 12 was right around when I was old enough to start working with my grandmother and consistent, because I would go every once in a while.
That's when you were cleaning offices with your grandmother. So you were 12.
Before that, I would do little things here and there. I would make pizza boxes for the local pizza place, and I would, clean up, or I would go with my grandmother, but it wasn't a consistent thing. It was just kind of every once in a while. But like right around 12, it was just like regular. Like I would start going, and then from that point, I ended up working at the library, and then I just been ever since 12. Yeah.
Yeah.
Been working.
Did you start saving at 12? Like, were you
no
responsible? No.
Actually, you know what?
12-year-old. No.
I was because I had there was an aunt of mine that left me some money. Mm-hmm. And I remembered, I didn't know anything about it, but I knew that there was people that were making money in stocks. And I was like, I had probably like 10 years old or something like that at that point. Mm-hmm. And I told my grandmother I want to give it a shot. And she took me down to the bank, and we took the few $1,000s that I had, and we put it into this account. And I didn't know anything, but I remember the guy telling me, just watch the arrows or watch the little ticker thing at the bottom of the screen. Mm-hmm. If you see these letters and it shows a green arrow pointing up, that means you made money. If it's red, that means you lost money. And that's all I knew. Right. And I would just go home and I'd be like, I would kind of like try to make sense of what the hell they were talking about. But I'm a kid. I didn't know what the hell was happening. But I would just see, I'm like, oh, I made some money. And then my grandmother, one day I was like, oh, I lost some money. Uh-huh. And my grandmother was like, what do you mean you lost some money? And I was like, well, the business, we invested and I lost money today. And she went, we pulled all the money out.
Really?
Yep.
She's like, oh, heck no.
Yeah. But that was back, I was like 10 years old.
Wow.
And I think it was like $5,000 I had in there.
Wow.
Yep. So crazy.
Yeah.
But, well, the reason I was asking you that was because I wanted to kind of get into our mentality when it came to money. And so it seems like since you were young, you've kind of had those feelings towards debt. Like you felt like it wasn't good or you didn't want debt.
No.
You just wanted to stay away from it. And I kind of felt the same way. And I've always felt that way. And we've made mistakes,
lots of mistakes. Yep.
Through our, relationship, we bought a car that we shouldn't have bought. We bought a couple cars.
Yes.
I tricked you into one.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, that one. But then
he tricked me.
Yeah, I did.
He finally admits to it.
I tricked you into one.
Years later.
Hey, it was a nice car.
It was a nice car. A nice car that you got to. It was a beautiful Jag. I mean, it was beautiful, but Miguel sure didn't know how to pick them.
It's the only car that I would do if I was. If I was alone in the car by myself, like without you and the kids, I would literally have thoughts. Like, I wouldn't mind getting T-boned in this car right now.
Shut up.
Like, I wouldn't mind just completely totaling this car right now so we just forget about it. But, so I think for a lot of people, that is one of the major things that holds people back is cars.
Yes.
Because people just do not know
how to
buy cars, what they're doing when they're buying cars. They'll trade them in and then get another car and get themselves into more shit.
Do you know why?
Why?
It's an emotional purchase.
True.
It's an emotional purchase. Look at you, pinky up.
Drinking my espresso at 9-something at night.
I know.
Because we got to record a podcast.
Because we old.
Because we old.
Oh, I was gonna go on a different route. I was gonna go somewhere else right now. Okay,
Sonja's
let's stay here. A little tired, dude. I
kept her up all night last night.
Yeah, you did. I'm like, what? What's going on here? Anyways, hey, we're getting so off track here. I'll just share like my biggest mistake. I was 23 when I bought my first house, and not knowing any better, I did good on the purchase because the house is worth more than double now, right?
Yep.
And I decided to refinance and pull out cash. And I did some improvements to the house, but I also paid off a vehicle.
So for somebody that doesn't understand, because it sounds like you're taking money from the house to pay off a debt.
Right. But that debt...
But why is that a bad idea?
Because a vehicle is not an asset. It's a liability. It depreciates.
Yeah. So you're taking money out of something that appreciates and that makes money.
Right.
That you're going to build equity in to throw money at something that is going to lose value.
Right.
So you're pretty much just throwing your money away.
Right. And that when I found out, like after it was all said and done and learning about finances, and the way I learned about finances is I always hung out with people that were smarter than me and had more than me, like all the time. And when I started learning the difference, I knew that I messed up when I did that.
Have you ever done something when like somebody gives you advice on something, but you don't really understand, but you know they know better than you do?
So I take their advice.
And you do it anyway?
Yes.
Have you done that before?
I've done it, and
do you
I
remember
still do it.
any examples of that? Because I know, like I've thought about, like there's times like we're sitting with somebody, and we know that they know their shit.
Yeah.
Like, and they may be explaining something, and it's like, I don't know if I understand 100% what you're talking about, but I know you know what you're talking about. So, and then it turns out that it was a good thing.
Right.
You know?
I mean, that's something that we're going through right now that we're going to get into.
So, yeah. So now as we get into this next phase, well, there was a point in our relationship where we had gotten into some debt because of the car and a couple credit cards and stuff like that. And
by the way, you guys,
I don't know what it. Go ahead.
People laugh when I tell them, "Oh, we were in debt."
It wasn't a lot, but
because of how little debt it was, but you still owe the bank. You know, it may have not been a lot of debt, but for us, it was because it's something that we were against.
Yeah. And so we made a decision at a certain point that we wanted to pay everything off, with the exception of the houses, because that's a little bit tougher to do. And the other thing is that houses have equity. So the debt on the house is not as important as the debt on a credit card or the debt on a car or that type of stuff. So we buckled down and we focused on paying off that debt. So we had made a decision that with Legal Shield at the time, that we would take any extra money that we had coming in from the business. And if we did like any business expenses, like we no shit buckled down, because even when you have a business, you can make excuses for bullshit. Yeah. You could be like, oh, let's go out to eat and we'll talk about this and we'll say it was a business expense and we can write that out. That's bullshit, because that's still money that you're wasting. That you're throwing. Like, you got to pay taxes on it. You can use it as a deduction, but the best thing to do is don't spend that money and use that money wisely on something else. So we decided that if it's not a 100% an absolute business expense that's going to bring us money back, we're not going to spend money on it.
Right.
And we're going to take every penny that we have and we're going to put that towards the credit cards, towards the car, towards all the debt that is holding us back.
And there was no going out to eat. Like there was
one of the biggest things.
Yes, for us, that's what it was. Because I mean, that's just something that we enjoy doing.
You know what? I saw a video, like one of the suggested videos on YouTube, because YouTube knows you so well. They suggest shit that. But one of the videos that I recently saw was about how much money people, or it was one of those. It was kind of like, I didn't watch it. I got to go back and check it out. But it's supposed to be, I think, one of those eye-opening videos about how much money people spend going out to eat.
And on Starbucks.
And I can guarantee it's a shit ton of money.
Oh, yeah.
Like that kind of money can make a huge difference when you're trying to like get out of debt or, make some changes.
Yep. And not only that, I remember too, at one point with those credit cards, when we were in the process of paying them down, because we were never late and we always paid them on time. I remember picking up the phone, and I can't remember who told me this.
Yeah.
But somebody had to tell me. Somebody had to give me advice on how to get lower interest rates on your credit cards. And that's what I did. I just called every credit card. There's a number in the back of your credit card. And I just, picked up the phone, and whoever answered, I'm like, hi, I've been with you guys for this long, never been late on a payment. And, I am shopping around and I am looking, I got offered another, so I'll tell them and I'm fibbing, a credit card with a lower interest rate. And so I wanted to see if you guys could either match this or beat this, or what can you do?
And a lot of times it would work.
Yeah, no, it did 100%. It did.
Yeah.
And it worked so good that I talked to my cousin about it, and she did it as well. And you can do it too.
Yeah.
As
Give
long
it a
as
shot.
you've been on time, with your payments and everything else. And if they tell you that that's not something they do, then you need to ask to speak to a supervisor. Because every time I called, that's what they told me. And I would ask to speak to a supervisor.
Yeah. So that was our first step, is just getting out of debt.
Mm-hmm.
And if you guys out there are listening and that's something that, that you're going through right now, if you want to make a change, a financial change, the first thing you have to do is get rid of that debt. A great way that we did it was we somewhat followed Dave Ramsey's plan.
Yes.
Where you just kind of line up all the debt that you have and you start knocking them out by the smallest to biggest. And not by the interest rate, but you knock it down by the smallest amount of debt to the biggest. That way you start, like, let's say you have a credit card that's $200. You could pay that off and you already are making progress. You already knocked one out. You have one win under your belt and you can move on to the next one. Maybe the next one is $800. That might take a little bit longer. Maybe 3 weeks or a month later, you pay that one off and now you have 2 wins under your belt and you just keep going until you knock it all out.
Mm-hmm.
So once we did that, we got to a point. Go ahead.
And another thing we did, January comes around. We're filing taxes.
This is a big one.
And at that time, we would get money back in our taxes. And sometimes it'd be $6,000. And it felt so good to have just $6,000.
What are we going to buy?
Nothing. Whatever we received
just drop it all at once.
It went, whatever credit cards we had went towards. Even our house, paying down the house. Like, that's what we did. Paying down the cars. That's how we paid off the cars. Remember?
There was one, the last check came from one of the tax returns and we just took most of the money and just dropped it on the car and paid it off.
Yes. We haven't had a car payment since 2013.
Yeah.
2013. We have not had a car payment.
Yeah.
We run our cars until they no longer work.
Yeah. Until they get wrecked or you can't start them anymore.
Yes.
You know?
Yep. When they're not fixable, then we'll go look and see what we could buy cash.
So once we got out of debt, then we started trying to figure out what we were going to do next. So we started looking at buying another house. And that was when things started getting a little scary. Because we started thinking about buying another house and moving out to this side of town. And at that time, we were thinking, like, if something happens and we can't pay for the house that we're going to move into, there's a chance that we could lose that house and the other house and the rental house. And then we lose everything.
Mm-hmm. And that's why you need an emergency.
Yeah, you need an emergency fund.
Yes. Yes.
So, and that's something that we also had worked on once we started, once we paid off all the debt.
Yep.
Then we started, stashing some money in a separate account for emergencies and stuff like that. And then, but we decided to give it a shot and go for it. Like, we looked at the numbers and there was a risk. But we thought that worst came to worst, I could pay for the house just with my job. We wouldn't be living pretty. It wouldn't be nice. It'd be rice and beans and freaking but at least we could get by until we make some changes and figure some things out.
Yes.
Go ahead.
And during that process, so we're looking for homes. And I remember our real estate agent, love her to death. She's a good friend of mine.
That's enough.
Yeah. And, we told her we are not going to fall in love with the house.
Is it emotions? Because a lot of the things that you just said it about the car too.
Yes, it is. All of it is.
Emotions get people in trouble when it comes to money.
Yes. Yes.
Emotions get people in trouble when it comes to money.
Yep.
That's a fact. Mm-hmm. Because you will buy that, you will fall in love with the leather of that car and the smell of it and fucking sign that paper.
Yep.
Same shit goes with that house.
Yes.
And like you said, the realtor said, she's like, usually she shows a couple houses, people fall in love with one and they sign the paperwork and it's done.
Right. Well, with us, what we were looking for was a great deal. We were looking for a great investment.
Yeah.
And so she said, she took us to, I don't know how many homes, but we were looking from October all the way to April.
Yeah.
And she was showing us homes. And how we ended up finding this house, well, I think you found it. And as soon as you found it, she actually sent you the listing. But this house was a short sale. And I did like the home. You know, I liked it. It had a lot of things that we were looking for, but it's not my dream home. It's not. Yeah. The backyard is my dream backyard, but it's not my dream home. But I knew that this was what was right for us at that time. Because I knew that we could build on that. Because as soon as, we bought this house under
way
what
under
the going, yeah. And so
we had to wait.
Moved in and the house already had equity.
So that's the emotion thing. Because our realtor said that she showed us like 100+ houses. Yeah. She said she's never shown anybody that many houses. But I think the issue part of it was that there was a miscommunication. Like we weren't your average, real estate customer, client, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
Like she said, you usually show a few houses and you fall in love with one and that's it.
Yep.
But we weren't like that.
Nope. And we knew what we wanted.
and it was probably super confusing because we would walk in like, oh wow, this is so nice. Look at that. And she's like, yeah, look at that.
And
we're like, nope. Not happening.
No. But you know what, too, listen, if you and I were not on the same page, it would have been very difficult. But you and I, at the beginning, our mentality for finances have pretty much been on the same level.
Yeah.
And when we decided to buy a home, we went in this together. Like we had discussions. We had conversations on what the plan was.
Yeah.
And we knew that we wanted to get the kids in a better school district. Yeah. And this location was great.
Yeah. So we ended up going for it. And everything worked out better than we could have imagined.
Yes.
Everything turned out great. We ended up starting a business with Trust Inc.
In 2018.
That started kicking ass and that's doing great.
And that was another thing that was challenging because I was with Legal Shield for 13 years.
Yeah.
Like that's what I did, not full time, but that I almost felt like that was my identity. And I didn't even think I was going to walk away from it. I thought I was just going to add an additional resource to offer my clientele. Yeah. But it just so happened that God had a different plan because this business, we opened it, we designed the cards, we did the brochures, and here I am hustling, pulling doors, connecting to my network and all of that. But for me it's almost like creating a different identity. Like that's how I felt at the time.
Yeah, because you were the Legal Shield lady.
Yes. And what if it failed? Like what if it failed?
Yeah.
And so everything is a risk when you're looking at the next step.
Yeah.
What's the next step? What's our next goal?
Well, when it comes to that kind of stuff, who are we? We were talking to somebody recently. I think it might have been when your brother was here. But I don't know. It's just a thought that pops into my head sometimes. Or we've heard it before, but if they're not paying your bills, don't worry about what the hell they're saying. You know what I mean? Like if somebody's trying to shit on your dreams, if they're not paying your bills, don't worry about what they're saying.
Right.
Talk to people that are doing things that you want to do.
Yeah.
Like that are in the space or that are doing already the things that you hope to be doing in the future.
Right.
And if they give you, some advice or if they tell you that, hey, I think this, then you can take it into consideration. But even still, you may not want to take that. Like if you you have to believe in yourself.
Yes.
No matter what.
Yes. But sometimes it does take someone else believing in you before you can believe in yourself. At least for me, the type of person that I am, there's times even with Legal Shield, like me speaking in front of the room. Yeah. I was so fearful of doing that, but it took somebody else that believed in me to get me up there to believe in myself.
Well, I'm saying like even for people that have experience, because we, as an example, this podcast, the topics that you guys listen to the podcast. If you like this podcast and you listen to it, make sure you go to Opposites Attract Pod. No, I'm just kidding. No, but if you listen to it, you know that the topics that we talk about on here could be fucking everywhere.
Right.
It could be everywhere. We could be talking about parenting, and now we're talking about freaking debt.
And then sex.
And then sex. And then like who knows what the hell
Right.
we're going to talk about. So when we talk to people that are experts at marketing and social media and influencing and YouTube and all that shit, the number one thing that we always get is you need to niche down, or
Right.
you need to find, what are you parenting? Are you business? Are you this? Are you that? And that's what we've heard so many times.
Yes.
And you know what? I keep saying we're not going to niche down, because this is life. This is what life is about. And that's what our podcast is about, is life. All these things happen to us, and they happen to everybody else that's listening.
Right.
It doesn't mean that we can't have success. And just because they think that doesn't mean that I have to follow it. And just because that nobody may have done it before the way that we're doing it doesn't mean that it can't be done. It just
Right.
means that we have to be the ones that show other people how to do it. You know?
Yes.
And that's okay. That's
Yes.
fine. But if you don't believe in yourself, if you don't think you can do it, you're already you're starting from a losing position.
Right.
You know? So but when so that time came, we ended up moving into this house, but the first thing that kind of put us on the right track was getting out of debt, like I
Yes.
said, right? And Dave Ramsey has been awesome for that,
Yes.
but he's not great for everything.
Yeah.
Right?
It just all depends. It all
It just depends on
where you're going, like what your
you're
goal
trying to
is.
do.
If your
Yep.
goal is to be debt free,
then he's
completely debt free, house is paid off.
and if you want to do it slowly but surely,
And
but when you're
safe.
done, you'll be
Yeah.
set, good to go. You don't have to worry about the risk. Then that's a good way. I mean,
Yes.
that's a good way to
He
do
gives great advice when it comes to that.
it. Now, but to do that, you may work a regular job until you retire, and you'll
With
retire
overtime.
with a few $1 million, and you'll live comfortably in your retirement. Now, if you want to build a business and you want to live life on your terms, by your rules, you're the boss, he's probably not the best person to listen to.
Not to take you to the next level.
No. So just understand that. But the first step, and this is something that we talked about the other day, is that there's people that maybe make as much money as we make or more. But because of the debt that they have, because of the way they spend their money, they can't make moves or make business decisions and try to get to the next level the way we're trying to, because they don't have access to money the way we do.
Right.
Because we haven't spent our money and it's not tied up in a car
Or a boat.
or a boat or a house that we shouldn't be living in.
Right.
You know, because we looked at other houses too when we were house shopping.
Yes.
And there was some that were more expensive, and I'm glad we ended up in this. We got a great deal on this house, and it's a house that not only can we afford, but we can afford it pretty comfortably, right?
Right.
We could
Yes.
get a way nicer house, and a lot of people that make what we make might live in a way nicer house because
Right.
but that also takes away the money from when you're trying to do other things,
Right.
you know? So the only thing is that it's scary.
Yes.
It was scary before when we were buying this house, and then the thought of messing up on this house and then that affecting the other house and undoing what we
Yes.
had done.
And the other house, because you haven't mentioned it, it's a rental property, and I've never, and you've never rented a property before, so
No experience.
You know, coming up, you know, what is a lease? You know, what has to go in the lease, and
What
you
if
know,
they
just
don't
the
pay you?
legalities,
And I can't kick them out.
right? Like just all
And
of that.
and we got to pay the mortgage, and they're not paying us any money.
right.
Like all those things you got to think about.
And you got to look up and you got to do your research. And I'm so thankful for Legal Shield, because we have
Yeah.
attorneys that we pick up the phone
was
and call
helpful.
and give
Yep.
us advice. And they helped me with the lease, and they helped me with an eviction notice just in case, you know. So we've always, and that's the thing, like we've always had a team in place.
Yeah.
Not as big
People
as
that we
a
talk to.
team that we have now. Right. People that mentor us, and, you know, we respect them, and, you know, they give us great advice.
Yeah. Whenever we're coming up to these decisions where we don't have experience, we go to people that have
Yes,
experience.
because we know that we don't know. You know, like we know that we don't know. And most people, it's so hard for them to just be real. Like, it's like when you don't know something, don't pretend that you know. Search for it, research, ask questions, find someone that is living the life that you want, and start picking their brain.
That is something that I have found a lot of people don't like doing, is telling people when they don't know something.
Right.
You know what I like to do is when I don't know something, I make the other person feel like they're the experts at this, so that they can teach me.
Yes.
You know, like if I don't know something, I'll tell you, like for my work, I fucking 90% of the shit that I do not know.
Yeah.
You know, and I joke around all the time. Like if somebody calls me and asks me a question, my answer is always, can I call you back in a couple minutes? Because I got to call somebody else and ask them that question because I don't know what the answer is.
Right.
Right. But when I call somebody else, the first thing that I tell them, I need your expertise.
Yes.
Have you heard me say that to somebody before? I need your expertise.
Yes.
They may not be the expert or the most knowledgeable person in the world, but they fucking know more than me.
Yes.
And I want them to help me.
Hey, what was that game show that was Call a Friend? Like when you didn't know the answer?
Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
There you go.
Can I phone a friend?
Come
That's me
now.
every fucking day at work. Can I phone a friend?
Dude, that's me.
Right?
That's us. Like that's something that we do well with. It's just asking questions. And it's the same thing with our children. I tell them the same thing. If you don't know, ask somebody. Yep. You know, Joey has a really good friend who is smart. The little boy is smart. And I tell Joey, I'm like, hey, if you're having trouble reading or with your math, I'm like, your best friend is smart. Ask questions. Ask him, because his best friend will be able to, you know, help Joey, I think, on a different level than as if we're helping Joey.
Yeah.
Like he'll be able to explain it to where Joey's like, oh, okay.
You might get it better. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean that's something that's great, is make sure that you're asking questions to people that have the experience, that know more than you do.
Yep.
So
that's what we've been doing a lot lately.
Yeah. So over the years, since we moved into this house, you know, we did the Dave Ramsey thing. We paid off all the debt. We bought the other house. We started the businesses, and then we started getting to when we were at the old house, before we moved into this house, when we started thinking about it, we were getting pretty comfortable in that other house because we were progressing in the careers. The business was doing good. And we were making money and we didn't have a lot of bills, and, you know, we were kind of stacking it up. Right. And then we end up buying this house, and everything is kind of up in the air and a mystery of how things are going to work out. Right. And everything works out beautifully.
Yes.
And we're doing the same thing all over again on a different level now.
Yeah.
Because now we have the businesses are doing well. The rental house is doing well. Now we're stacking up a little bit more. And now we're back to that point where we want to do something else. And it's scary again.
Yes.
But before we get into that, make sure you guys go to oppositesattractpodcast.com. Share it with the people that you know. When you go to our website, you'll be able to see our social media there. You can watch the podcast there. You can listen to it there. If you're on the computer, at the top, you'll see the Support the Show tab. If you're on the phone, you can click the menu button. When you see that Support the Show tab and you click it, it'll take you to our Amazon link. Anything that you purchase through that link doesn't cost you anything extra, but it helps out the show. And if you search Opposites Attract Podcast on Amazon, you will find our pop sockets, our phone cases, t-shirts, all of our merch. You can find it there by searching Opposites Attract Podcast. And like I said, it doesn't cost you anything extra, but it helps us out. When you click on that Support the Show tab, you'll also see a link to Trust Inc. And Trust Inc. is?
We are a nationwide mobile notary agency and signing agency. We do a lot of work with title companies. Sorry, I got to swallow. Title companies, lenders. And so if you would like Trust Inc. to be your signing agency, you can request us.
Yes, and you can go to Trust Inc. directly by going to trustinkusa.com. I missed the freaking sound effects. I was trying to get to the sound effects when you let me swallow. Oh, damn it. Oh. See, now I'm all messed up. Anyway, so yeah. So we're also affiliates with Libsyn, which is who hosts our podcast. If you guys have a hobby that you're passionate about and you want to share it with people, if you've ever thought about starting a podcast and you want to give it a shot, you can go to Libsyn, which is who hosts our podcast. They distribute it to Amazon, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get podcasts, they distribute it there. And you can use our promo code OAP for Opposites Attract Podcast, and they'll give you whatever month you sign up in. They'll give you the rest of that month for free, and they'll give you the next month for free just for trying out Libsyn, promo code OAP. And we're also affiliates with Pinwheel, which is the best smartphone for kids that's out. We bought our daughter a Pinwheel phone before we were ever even affiliated with the company, before they ever even knew of us. We saw what they were doing. We feel like their mission is super important for what's happening out there with kids and social media and technology. And they have an awesome product. And if you've thought about buying your kids a phone, if you've ever had that feeling of like where you just don't know, where you're not sure of what to do, give Pinwheel a shot. Take a look at it. Make sure you go to pinwheel.com and you can use promo code OAP10 so you can get 10% off of a Pinwheel phone, and all of their apps are personally selected for kids. There's nothing that, you know, they can get into that's going to get them in trouble or things that they shouldn't be looking at on those Pinwheel phones. So give it a shot. OAP10, all in caps, for 10% off.
T-E-N.
OAPTEN. There you go.
I had to take a breath for you.
All right. Woo. So now, like I said, we're at this other point, and it's scary again because we kind of feel like we felt last time.
Yes.
You know, where if we end up making the wrong move, we could set ourselves back quite a bit, right?
And I think with this one, it feels a bit more intense because it is it's the next level. It's our next level.
Yeah.
And we have more to lose now than what we did back then.
Yeah.
You know, and when we make a decision, or when we make a decision, we tend to talk about it over and over again. We do research on it.
We drive people crazy about it.
We pick up the phone. We call the people that are having success, that are, you know, that are there for us. And that's what feels so good. And you know what it is? I think you talked about it on the previous podcast. It's like, you know, relationships are so important. Like relationships are so important, and so is your character.
Yeah.
You know, if we weren't, no, I don't want to do this, just patting ourselves on the back. But it's like, you don't want to burn bridges. Yeah. You know?
No, when you're only looking out for yourself and you're just trying to make $1, and it's like, hey, what's in it for me?
Right.
Then people, I mean, you may not realize it, but that will affect, or you definitely, like I said last time, there's people that have no clue that the people that we talk to today were people that we met in our business 15 years ago. And we maintained those relationships. We were great with them. Like, we weren't looking for money when we would meet with them. It wasn't like, hey, what can you do for me? Mm-hmm. It was like, sometimes they needed help, and it wasn't like, hey, I need to get paid for that.
Right.
It's like, no, you need help, I'll help you. And maybe one day, whenever I need help, you know, you can return the favor. And if not, it's okay too. Whatever. No big deal. You're good people. I'll help you out if I can.
Right.
And then it turns around 15 freaking years later, and you couldn't see that coming.
Yeah.
But it's all from treating people right.
Yes. And it's so important, because you never know who's going to be in front of you that's holding the key to your future.
Yeah.
Yep. Or your next. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you were an asshole to someone in college, you know, and a jerk, just because you were a jerk in college, and you are looking to purchase a home, and, you know, you're going to meet with your lender, and you walk into the door and you see that the lender is that person that you used to, you know, be a shithead with.
Well, not only like
that's on a lower level, but
like, if they're an asshole, then I don't have a problem just, you know, like fuck you, you can fuck off. Like, I don't care. If you're an asshole and you're a piece of shit, I don't want to deal with you. And that could have been 15 years ago or whatever. But there's sometimes, like, you meet great people, and we're lazy with the relationship. We neglect it, and it just fades away.
Yes.
You know, as opposed to everyone to just check in, see how people are doing. And there's something about that I wanted to talk about. Maybe I can talk about it a little bit later. But yeah, like, you couldn't guess that those relationships from back then would be, you know, helping us out today.
Yes.
But yeah, so that is something that we ended up recognizing, that we're getting those same feelings. And in order to kind of calm it down a little bit, we started calling those people
and
that we know, right?
Yes.
And we started talking about some different options about how to get to the next level, because we've talked about on this podcast before that we don't want to work forever. You know, my plan is not to retire like everybody else. It's, you know, we'll work, and we want to get to a certain point where we just do our thing.
Right.
You know, and in order to do that, we've been thinking about refinancing some of our rental house so that we can take some of that money, because like we talked about before, we bought this house and we left the emotion out of it.
Right.
There's been other situations that we've done well where we've left the emotion out of it. And now we have equity in these houses that we can use for business ideas or opportunities that we have. So that's what we're planning on doing. It was so cool because recently we had our finance guy, our tax guy, and who else was it?
The lender who was giving us different.
I mean, we're having conference calls with the finance guy, the tax guy, the lenders, like all of them on the phone at the same time, so that we can figure out what the best way to do things is. And I suggest, like, if you guys are really trying, like, do it. Do it that way. I mean, that's what they're there for. Put them together and have them talk, because if you have your finance guy explaining stuff to you and then you're talking to you're not a finance guy. Good luck explaining that shit to the loan officer.
But you know what? If you would have told me that we were going to be having conference calls with our fiduciary and our lender and our CPA, I wouldn't even be able to think like we even would have such a team together. And most people don't even know that they can create their own team.
You know how that starts? It starts by paying off the debt and asking questions, because once you start paying off the debt, once you start with the small business, the little one, whatever idea you have in your head, and you get that thing going, guess what? You're going to have some write-offs that you need to write off at the end of the year for taxes.
Right.
And who you're going to call? You're going to call your tax guy. And that's
not
when
Ghostbusters.
And that's when you end up getting a tax guy.
Right.
Right? And that's where it starts. You start looking for a good tax person, and now you have one. You have one person in your book that you can call and ask questions to.
Yes.
Little by little, you make a little bit more money, and you're like, what am I going to do with this money? I need to put it somewhere. And you find another person. And
another thing is that every one of them was referred to us.
Yeah.
Every one of them.
Yep.
One of our mentors said, you need to call him. You need to hire him. You need to get him on your team. You know?
And when we look at what they're doing and where they're at, when they're saying you need to look at him, you need to hire him, guess what? We take a very serious consideration, because we know who the people that are telling us about this are.
Right.
You know, we know what they've done.
Right.
We know the success they're having, right?
Right.
So, yeah, it's freaking crazy. But go ahead.
And before, you know, if you are looking at, you know, I don't know, becoming debt free or looking at purchasing an investment property or whatever the next move for you is, always have a backup plan. Yeah. You know, with us, what's going to help us to not lose everything that we worked so hard for is that we have that emergency account.
Yeah.
Just in case something happens or something goes wrong.
Yeah. Yeah,
you know,
that's exactly what it's for.
It's not putting all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah, if something happens to the renter, we have something set up for that.
Right.
And, you know, if something happens to this house or something happens to my job or whatever, but you got to kind of...
Right. And then to diversify, like, you know, we are looking into real estate now.
Yeah.
But we also have investments.
So that's what the things that we're looking into right now. We're looking at refinancing, like I said, the rental house. And recently we've been talking to somebody about a business called, you guys have heard us talk about Airbnb before. And that's kind of what sparked the idea of getting this all going. Like, hey, how do we get into an Airbnb? How can we make some money? Like, we heard people are making money doing this. How can we make some money doing this?
Right.
And that's what kind of kicked it off, was the Airbnb. But Airbnb is pretty expensive. Like, you can do it, but that's kind of like the putting all your eggs in one basket, like you're saying.
Right.
We don't have the kind of money to be able to diversify and do Airbnb.
Right.
If we're going to do Airbnb, we're going to put all our eggs in one basket and hope that it works out. And if it doesn't, we're screwed.
Right.
So that's why
But there's
that's
other
kind
ways.
of a little
Yeah,
bit.
There's other ways.
Yeah. So the other thing that we found out was called Turo from our
Yes.
friend Bill Soroka. Bill
Soroka.
Soroka. He's been on the podcast before.
Yes.
I was thinking Turo. Soroka.
I know.
But
I got
no,
it.
he's been on the podcast before. We've had some awesome episodes with
Yes.
him and the stories that he's shared. But Turo is pretty much like an Airbnb for cars.
Yes.
Where you can rent out your car, and it sounds crazy as hell. Like I
Yes.
can't imagine renting somebody a car and what the hell they're going to be doing to my car when they're renting it.
But
You know
it's
what
not
I mean?
your car. That's an emotional thought.
Exactly.
Yes, that is not.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, you have to kind of take it as a business.
Yes.
This is what it is. Now, as far as Turo, it sounds people are making good money doing it. Apparently, the one thing that it does sound like there could be a lot of work.
Yes.
Which I don't
a lot
mind.
of time that needs to be invested.
I don't mind working, and if I'm going to be working for myself, I would much rather always work for myself. But I would also rather work smart. Like if I don't have to be washing cars and detailing cars and picking cars up to make them, I'd rather not.
Like our one of our good friends said, you don't want to work like a brown man and live like a white man.
Yeah, you got the nice car, but
It's
nobody
so
sees that
funny.
you're the one cleaning it.
That's
You're the
so
one
messed
doing
up.
all
That's
this stuff.
just a joke. I don't even know if I should have said that.
But
I thought it was so funny though when he said that. I'm like, you're crazy.
no, but it is like that is something that it could turn into a lot of work. Like you have to go rent the car, go drop it off, pick it up, and it turns into a job pretty
Yes.
much. Your business turns into a job. So that is an option. There's another thing that we were talking to Bill Soroka about, which was Amazon.
Right.
And there's different things to do on Amazon.
Yes.
Like Amazon has different ways to make
Yes.
money, which is freaking nuts. Like one of them you just told me about, which is I'm not doing that. But you guys can look
I'm
it
not
up,
doing
dude. Like if you guys have a freaking camera, Amazon has this thing called Amazon Live now.
Yes.
Where you can, it's pretty much like QVC if you guys remember back in the day.
Ooh,
the
I'd be good
The
at
home
QVC.
shopping network. That's what it is, babe.
I'd be like,
Babe, that's what it is on Amazon, on their
it?
homepage. It's
Yeah.
QVC but it's QVC done by like influencer type people on their freaking page.
okay.
That's what that
Wow,
is.
dude, Amazon's pretty smart.
Yeah, they are. But that's
Jeez.
why Jeff Bezos went to to freaking space.
In
In a cock rocket.
in a cock.
But so there's that.
no.
But the other way people are doing it is they're wholesaling on Amazon. They find products, they put them on Amazon,
Yes.
and then they sell them and they make a profit.
Yes.
Now there's a system to do that. I think you need some money to do that, but that's
Yes.
also another option that we're going to look into. Also selling merch on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
People are making money selling merch, selling t-shirts. Now they don't have to be t-shirts for our podcast. They could be t-shirts that just people want to buy. There's ways to research it, find out what the niches are, how to market the shirts, how to title it, how to make them, get them designed, all that stuff. So that's something else that we're looking at. What else? What
And
else
I
were we
think
doing?
that just flipping cars.
Flipping cars was
Flipping
another
cars,
one.
yeah. There's so many ways. There's so many ways. You just got to look for the way that works for you.
The other thing that we were looking at is investing in crypto,
Yes.
in some crypto stuff. That's something that we got to learn a little bit more about, or a lot more about.
Yes.
But that is a business, kind of like you were talking about the car. Like if you can't handle the thought of somebody tearing your shit up when you're renting it out,
Yep.
you can't get in that business. And we were talking to somebody about crypto, and they were saying like, if you can't handle the fact that you might lose 60, 70% of your shit in one day, then you shouldn't be in this thing. You know what I
Right.
mean? Because that could happen. You just got to wait it out and let it ride back up.
Yep.
But that's
And buy more.
that's freaking
right?
yeah.
And buy more.
When lose
people are selling, you buy.
that is I mean, I understand.
Yes.
That is a crazy thought.
It is,
like,
right?
I just lost I don't know how much money.
Yeah.
So what am I gonna do?
Buy
Buy
more. I know, right?
Right?
I don't know. But the people we're talking to are having success, and hey,
So at first, so this isn't the first time that we thought about refinancing the house and doing this. So we thought about this a few months back.
Yes.
And at that time, it wasn't.
We were just chicken.
No,
we didn't know enough. We didn't know enough.
Yeah. Like we had talked to somebody about the Airbnb. We got excited and we're like, let's start refinancing, see how much money we can pull out, this and that. But then we started thinking about like, what are we actually going to do with this money?
Right.
And we had really Airbnb. And that was it.
That was it.
We had no idea. And then we started thinking like, well, what happens if Airbnb doesn't happen or doesn't work?
Right.
And we had no plan B and nothing else. So that's when we started talking to the fiduciary, the loan guy, and we started talking with Bill and all our friends, and all the different options started coming up. So now that we have all these options, now we're going to go ahead and refinance, pull the money out, and the plan is to give it to the fiduciary. He can hold on to it. He can make investments with it so that we can make more than what we're going to pay in interest so that we're still making money. But he'll hold on to it until we figure out exactly like, okay, we need this much money for crypto. We need this much money to buy a Turo car. We need this much money to do something else. And, worst comes to worst, we're making, the interest on that, and we can put it back in the house if we have to.
Right. Right. But I don't think that I
don't
feel,
think so either.
I feel like, and this is it, like feeling so uncomfortable with it. I know that it's the right thing to do because for me and my spiritual self, I feel that it's God telling me like, you got to move, you got to move, you got to move, and so it's time. You feel like he already told you once? Move.
He already told you once. And now I'm telling you again.
Yep. And not only that, but when we decided that we were going to refinance, I didn't go with the first lender. Like I shopped around. I had like I had 2 brokers and two other like good friends, that are in the industry. And what I love about every one of them is that they understand that this is business. Yeah. And 2 of them straight up told me I cannot beat that interest rate. And just to be honest, they're like, just to be, just flat out honest, I would love to help you, but I know that this is a business transaction. I can't touch that interest rate.
Yeah.
And that's what I love is their honesty.
Yeah. And I don't know if it's always like that, but
you gotta find those people. I've built those relationships.
Keep those people around you.
And he tells me he's a really good friend of ours, and he's like, thank you for trusting me enough. And I'll send him over the quotes, and he'll tell me whether it's good or not.
Yeah.
And he's not even the one helping me, but because he cares about us and what we're doing, he's doing it. He's taking time to give us advice and look over these quotes and telling us, okay, well, this is what you're wanting to do. This would be best. This rate is good. There's hidden fees here. Stay away from that. And I just love the fact that we have those people to go to, because when you are, trying to do something different, it is scary. And a lot of times fear will stop you in your tracks. It will stop you. It will paralyze you, and you will not make the move, and you will stay where you are because of that fear.
That is, yep. That is,
and that's what happened to us really, a little bit at the first time, like, because we were just so unsure that it was scary. So we had to get to work. That's the thing. We had to get to work.
Well, and then we realized it.
Yes.
We had that realization that we have done this before.
Yes.
Yeah, I think you said it.
Yeah.
You're like, we went through this last time. When we bought this house, we were going through the same exact things. Yes. We were worried. We were scared that we were going to, and everything turned out fine. We're just doing it again on a different level.
And it's just having that faith. And I think with you and I, because we come from being broke, we're so scared, and we've worked so hard to get to where we are. You guys, listen, we paid off credit cards 3 times before we finally said enough is enough. It's not like we just woke up and said, hey, we're going to pay off this credit card debt. And then we did it the first time and kept it that way. That's not what happened. Yeah. We did it we did it 3 times and finally got sick of it and decided enough is enough. And we cut up those credit cards, and we've been living debt free since 2013. So it wasn't easy. And there were times where I remember for my birthday, you gave me, scissors. And I was like, cool, because this is going to help me make more money. Because that's when we were doing, the little angels, the tutus and stuff like that. But he bought me something that was going to make him money. No,
you know what? And the thing is that if you stick to it, if you're focused, those scissors, like that's an embarrassing fucking present to give your wife a pair of scissors. But listen, but that's something that we can both look back at.
Right. Yeah.
And it's like, I bought you a pair of scissors for your birthday because we had, you know what? We could have went out to dinner.
Oh yeah.
I could have put it on a credit card or did something. Mm-hmm. But now when we look back at it, we did the right thing. Yeah. It sucks giving your wife scissors for her birthday or Valentine's Day or whatever it is.
We've done, I mean, just as an example, with Adriana, okay, our first baby, right? When we had Adriana, we were already thinking that we were going to have a second child. Yeah. Her furniture that we purchased, we bought neutral furniture, neutral toys, neutral everything.
In case we were going to have another kid.
In case,
and it could have been a boy.
Yeah. Yes. And not only that, but the crib turned into a full-size bed. And guess what? We still have that bed, and it's in our guest room today.
How many? Yeah. Now, people would have thrown that away.
Yes.
They would have got another bedroom set.
Yes.
And that's just ways that we've looked, ways that we've been able to save some money to be able to do other things.
Yes.
But before we get out of here, there was something that we talked about, and we mentioned it a little bit earlier. But the reason that people are not able to do these things, that you can't make these moves, like you're kind of handcuffed. And you already mentioned it, but I think a big part of that is those emotional purchases that we make. Mm-hmm. And it's the big ones.
Yes.
Sometimes, people, I've heard it both ways. Like a house is not an asset, or it can be an asset, or...
Yes, I've heard it both ways as well.
And I can see
Same
it,
thing with the car.
And I can see it both ways.
Yeah.
You know what? If you're buying a house today, be careful. I don't know what to tell you. You may not be buying an asset, because everybody's buying houses right now, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you the people that are making money are the ones selling houses right now, not buying them.
Well, there's some that are buying too, but the reason why is because they're renting them out.
Yeah, that's a different thing.
And they could get more in rent.
Yeah, but that's a different thing. You're buying a house that's kind of like buying a Turo car. You're buying a car not so much based off of how much that car is worth, but how much the earning potential on that car.
Yes.
But people are buying houses to live in.
Yes.
Like,
it's just,
it's like you said, it's an emotional thing. It's like, oh, the interest rates are so low.
Yes.
Yeah, the interest rates are so low, but it's still $400,000 for a house. Yeah, that's
way
not,
more
that's
than
not
that.
cheap.
Yes.
It's not cheap.
Right.
So I think those emotional purchases, the cars, the credit cards, the house. I mean, we have that gut feeling. We know when we're not doing things right.
Right.
But it's those things that keep us from being able to make moves that will put you farther ahead in the future.
Yeah.
And those things they won't even come up. You know why? Because somebody might know that the position that we're in, right? Our friends. If an opportunity crosses their desk or somebody calls them and they say, hey, I've got this thing. I'm looking for 2 more people. I thought about you. Yes. And if you know anybody else, it's going to be $20,000 a piece or $30,000 a piece or whatever it's going to be a piece. Right.
Right. Mm-hmm.
If you're somebody that doesn't have their finances together, and people know, right? For the most part, like people, like they can tell by your spending and they have a good idea and the conversations that you have with them.
Yes.
They'll come to us because they'll be like, you know what? Sonja and Miguel might be interested. And you know what? I know they probably have it. Let's see what's up. There's other people that's like, they don't even think about you.
Right.
They don't even think about you. You don't get those opportunities because that has to become your identity.
Yes.
Is the progression. I mean, I don't know how else to explain it.
You know the movie, and I know you're not too crazy about this movie, but it's
The
the movie
Notebook?
The Secret.
Oh.
It's like we're not just wishing upon a star. Like we are talking about it, we're throwing it out in the universe, but we're also taking action. Like we're talking to people about it. We're telling people, those people that know us, the people that are helping us, you know, our mentors, they know what we're doing. They know where we're wanting to go. So if something does cross their desk, they are going to pick up the phone. And because they know our character, right? They know our character. They're going to tell this person, listen, I know that they are looking for an opportunity. They are good people. They are, you know, hardworking people, you know, and I think that you guys would make a great partnership. Like they sell us to them because of, you know, because of us, the way we've been with them.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of people don't think about that. You know, a lot of people, they wish, they pray, it's like The Secret without the action, right? Like you throw a vision board, you have a vision board and there's a vision board, but it's like, what actions are you taking to get there?
That's the only problem that I've ever had with The Secret. You know, that's the only problem that I've ever had. Like The Secret, I think is great. And there are some things that I don't feel like The Secret's going to help. I just don't. You know, and for those of you that don't know, The Secret is the law of attraction. Right. If you've ever heard of the book The Secret or watched the movie / documentary, it ended up getting, it was great. It ended up getting a bunch of heat more than anything, just I think because it was missing some stuff.
Right.
You know, there's some things that, look, I could fucking wish and think with all my might and all my brain power that I want to be LeBron James. Guess what? I will never be a freaking 6'7" blackjack dude. You know what I mean? It's not gonna fucking happen.
Aww.
No matter.
No.
Is that what you were hoping?
Kidding.
That I was gonna use The Secret, turn into LeBron James? But you know, like it's not gonna happen. It doesn't matter what magic fucking powers you think you have. It's not happening. Now, if you want to become successful, I feel that there was a thing in that video that I remember, like specifically. There was one with this guy. He was standing in front of the mirror, and I think he was like in a white wife beater, but he was looking at himself in the mirror and he saw himself in a suit. And I was like, I get it. If you can't see yourself like that,
right,
it's not going to happen for you.
Right.
If you can't picture yourself a success doing the things that you want to do, it's not going to happen for you.
Yes.
And it doesn't happen right away. It's little by little, because at first it's like you can see it and then it goes away. Mm-hmm. You can see it and then it goes away for a long period of time and then it comes back. Little by little, the more you think about it and the more you act on it, the more things start to happen. The more you start having little successes,
yes,
the more consistently you start seeing yourself as that person.
Yes. So this is how it worked for us really quick before we get out.
All right.
When we bought this house, do you remember what started it? I went to an appointment.
Yeah, that's right.
A Legal Shield appointment with my friend, and it was her mom's house. And I walk into this house and oh my goodness, it is beautiful. Like I'm just like in love, and I'm asking her questions about her house, and that seed was planted that day. Like, you know what? I want a new house. I want a house. Yeah. And you know what? We can afford it. And I want a house. But I knew that I was going to rent out the other house. Like we were going to rent out the other house. Like I knew that. I didn't know how it was going to happen. But that seed was planted. And then I don't know how many weeks later, but Miguel had some time off and I had some time off. And I just said, hey, why don't we go look at some houses? Yeah. And that's what we did. And it was fun. And so we started taking action. Like we started.
So that we can make it happen.
Yes. Yeah. And then, we reached out to a real estate agent. We started looking at the market. Is it a good time? Is it a bad time? What is it that we want to do? What is it that we want to accomplish? And that's what happened. So if I would have just put a picture of the house up and not took the necessary steps, we would not be in this house today.
Nope, because you got to line it up. What are you going to do? Line it up and knock it down one by one. This is the next thing. This is the next step. This is the next step. And it may seem daunting or it may seem like there's a lot of stuff, but just don't worry about any of that shit. Just figure out what comes first and then what comes next. And then just one after another,
Yep.
one after another, one after another.
Yes. And it's work. It
Yep.
is. It's work. But
it's worth it.
It is.
Yeah.
But you're not going to wish upon a star and live the life that you want to live. Like, you're going to have to work 14 hours a day. There's a time where you were working 2 jobs.
2 full-time
And we
jobs.
had 5 kids.
I work 16 hours a day.
Yeah. Yes. And we had 5 kids.
Yep.
Like, you know what I'm saying? There were times where we were struggling.
I would leave. I would start work at 6 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
My work was about 40 minutes away. So I would leave the house 5:15, get to work at 6. I would work 6 to 2:30.
Mm-hmm.
I would go across the street to another place, and I would work from 2:30 to 11. But I couldn't get there right at 2:30 because I had to travel across the street. So it took me like 10 minutes. So I would have to stay a few minutes late. So I would work from 6 in the morning till 11 at night, plus the travel time.
Yes.
And I did that for like 6 months, you know, but it you know what? It doesn't matter. You do what you have to do.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter.
Exactly.
You can make excuses
or you can make it happen.
But you can't do both.
That's right.
And one last thing,
that.
and one last thing before we get out of here, there was a video that we watched recently with this pastor, Dr. Monroe.
Oh, yes.
And
yes.
he said something that made a lot of sense. And I've heard it before, but he said, broke people talk about how much money they make.
Mm-hmm.
Rich people talk about things they have.
Yes.
Wealthy people talk about ideas. And, you know, we may talk about some of the things that we have. We don't really talk about how much money we have or any of that stuff, but we are always thinking of the next thing.
Yes.
The idea that what can we do? What can we do differently?
Mm-hmm.
How can we change something to make it better? You know?
Yes.
It's the ideas that are the
And
ideas and acting on those ideas.
Yes. Yes.
And with that, thank you guys for being with us. Make sure you guys go to oppositesattractpodcast.com. Share it with the people that you know. You can watch the podcast there. You can listen to it there. You can click on our support the show tab and support the show that way. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for your love and support. And thank you for listening to Opposites Attract podcast.
Where we get better
together.
Bye.
Bye.